Vanessa, clap. Tinos, clap. Okay. Let's go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to A Parent's Truth, where we have honest conversations about parenting. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Vanessa. And today we're doing an episode based on our series about how culture affects parenting. And today's guest...
Here he is. Tinos. My husband. You've heard a lot about him. There he is. Finally strong-armed him to be a guest on our podcast. He doesn't really want to. He's here under duress.
And I still don't know what I'm talking about.
She just said.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I wasn't paying attention.
Because if you don't know this, you're from a different culture than what's here in the United States, and you're a parent.
Oh, that's a surprise.
He didn't know how that happened. We have to kind of go through it.
And you know what they say, the men really never know.
They never really know.
I still don't know.
I could have a baby daddy somewhere.
Oh, good.
A baby daddy.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, so yesterday we had an opportunity to speak with Sheena. And Sheena is, of Filipino descent, just like I am. And we just kind of talked about some of the things that we've experienced growing up with, us being Filipino and still having to embrace an American culture. But for you were born and raised in Greece, right? So
Yes.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about your background and like how you guys met and all this other stuff that you feel
How
comfortable
we
with?
met.
Yeah.
No, the true story. Don't tell that story you like to tell. Can see it in your face.
I don't even know what to
The
say.
true
guys.
story.
The true story.
True-
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? Let me tell that part.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
So, we met dancing. I was working at a theater in Athens, and we had an exclusive contract, so we couldn't go out and do other gigs and jobs and stuff like that. So we all ever hung around each other. Well, one night, a bunch of dancers came to see the show. Or was it the beauty pageant?
Beauty pageant.
Okay, so there was Miss Grease, and it was at this theater, and a bunch of dancers came to dance in the show. It was our home theater, so we danced in the pageant. But one of the girls came back after the show and said, "Oh, there's a bunch of dancers out at the bar. I just talked to a bunch of them." I'm like, "Oh, cool. I want to go meet some of them." So I took my makeup off, got dressed. By the time I went out there, he was the only one left.
And of course, she came over and she said, "Hi, my name is Lauren.
No, see,
What's yours?"
That's why I'm telling the story. I introduced myself to him. We talked for like less than a minute, and I'm like, loser, and I left.
Yeah.
And that's how we first met.
But
So.
part of the story that I know, or at least the story that he told me, so I don't know if any of this
Well,
is
you oughta
really
know
true,
better than that.
is that he said before he even met Lauren, he had seen her in like
On
maybe
TV.
on TV, right?
Yeah, it was a Christmas special. And the show was on.
Uh-huh.
And I saw Lauren. I was
And
mesmerized.
Mesmerized.
But
Aw.
I didn't know that 30 years later we would be married.
Oh no. I'm gonna go take care of that.
What happened?
The panel fell.
Something
No,
fell.
No, it's fine. Leave it. It's fine.
We're okay.
It's fine. I'm just clean up crew.
I was like, what? I thought it was Sweet Pea.
I thought it was Sweet Pea.
I was like, oh no, it's fine. Okay, we taken care of.
Hi.
Yeah.
Continue.
So go ahead.
So yeah, 30 years later we're together
Mhm.
with
Still.
a daughter.
Still.
And yeah, it's great.
And yeah, it's great.
And I'm in another country.
And you're in another country. Yeah, Lauren was speaking about how prior to coming to the States, there was a lot of prep she was giving you, like about the culture here, like how explain like how that was for you, hearing some of the things that she was telling you, and then versus when you were actually experiencing it yourself.
Well, I don't know which part you're talking about.
Well,
For
just-
me, the hardest part was being on time. Yeah,
Oh.
that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It's very difficult when you're used to being an hour and a half late, and you are on time in Greece. To actually have to be on time
Like-
in the States.
Uh-huh.
I got in trouble a lot.
Okay. I mean, I get it. I mean, we have Filipino time. You guys
We
have
CP time.
yeah, and you're on
Apparently, we have
GB
Greek time.
Greek time.
Yeah. And you know, my culture is very loud, so it was
No way.
so it
No.
was really hard for me to keep it down
Mm-hmm.
and have quiet meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It
Oh,
wasn't
and
easy.
another thing I just thought of, when he came on the ship, because we were working on cruise ships, and when you do a show on cruise ships, everything's all yay and happy and like real
Yeah, that was hard.
Disney-ish,
That was very hard.
Disney-ish. But in Greece, everything is gruffer and
Serious?
more raw and serious,
Yeah.
and you know the choreography it's more intense and it's more. And he would never smile.
So
I
are
couldn't
you?
do it.
We're like doing freaking
It's-
Will Rogers Follies,
Yeah.
tapping and stuff. And he's
Uh-huh.
all. I'm like, no, you have to smile.
Are you like full on paso doble like all day?
That's,
Oh my God.
that's exactly what it is.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
We're gonna call you the paso doble man.
Yes. Oh, great.
Paso
Now I
doble.
have another nickname.
Yeah. But
Like I
that,
didn't have enough.
like,
Yeah.
tell us about your nicknames.
He's like, no,
No, it's okay. Let's move on.
I don't want to talk about that.
So you mentioned being on time was a challenge. She was mentioning it the other day too. Like everything's like, when is our food gonna be ready? It'll be ready when it's ready.
When it's ready.
What else was a culture shock to you?
That's basically
That was
it.
like the main thing.
That was the main thing, you know, try to be quiet. I mean, my own daughter just, if I raise my voice, like, stop yelling at me. I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just talking to you
Yeah. Yeah.
with a stern tone. But
Right.
On the phone.
yeah,
Tell him when he's on the phone.
Oh yeah, when he's on the phone, he'll be like
Is he on the phone
during
with anybody?
quarantine. During
Oh, okay.
quarantine, he would be on the phone. A client would call him or something,
Uh-huh.
and he wasn't working, but clients would call him, and then I'm over at the table working, and the phone would ring. I'm like, you got to go in the other room, and he'd like come in here, and I could still hear him.
Yeah. The door's
It
closed.
was like he was in the room with me.
well, I have to make sure. I have to make sure that they can hear me. You know,
It's like it's
it's
not
customer
like,
service.
Right.
It's
That's
not like
what
the
it is.
old times when the line would get blocked and you had to like whistle into the line to clear the line. No,
Yeah.
the telephone communication has evolved since then.
It's customer
But
service.
he's
That's
so
what it is.
loud.
Yeah.
He's so loud. Yeah.
Well, and that's part of it, right? Like Greeks, just like
We're
our
passionate
culture.
people.
Yeah, very passionate.
That's what we are.
passionate.
Yes.
Okay.
Passionate.
Yes. So I was telling them yesterday how I would go over with you before we moved here when we realized that we were going to end up moving here about how, one day, if we have kids, they're going to come home and say, oh, somebody called me an Oreo at school, and how we were going to deal with the racism thing and that part of our culture here. And you, because you used to kind of have a temper. So
Now, why would somebody call my kid a cookie?
see, this is the kind.
Here we go.
This is the
I've been
kind
called
of
that
thing.
sometimes.
This is the kind of thing that we apologize for in the beginning. That won't be the first time that happens. So anyway.
Yes.
It's okay.
So I was
It's okay.
trying to prep you and get you ready because of the way sometimes you would react to things like that. To let you know, to prep you, because I didn't want you to get here and be all shocked at, why didn't you tell me it was going to be like this? And that wouldn't have been fair. You had to know. So can you speak to that?
Yes, actually, that was another thing that was difficult for me. In Greece, it's a little bit different. We have a temper, and when something happens, that temper comes out, and anything can happen. We could even have a fist fight at some point, but nobody really cares after that. Everybody's okay.
It's just
after
done.
that. It's done. We'll move on. Here, if that temper comes out, I could be sued. I could lose everything. So it's a little bit different. It's more of a in Greece, what you see is what you get. Here, what you see, it's totally different of what you get. It's a lot. I feel like it's a lot of backstabbing,
Right, like a facade of
like
sorts,
a facade,
right?
and it's very difficult. It's
Totally.
very difficult to read somebody. I learned how
Right.
to cope with that. I learned how to play that game, but it's been a long time since I've been here. At the beginning, I couldn't play that game at all. So that was very difficult.
How long before you feel like you got comfortable with the way things were in the States versus in Greece back home?
Oh, it took years, probably at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge culture shock for
Yeah.
sure.
There's not in Greece, there's an ease. Like when I went there, it only took me like a year to get comfortable to the quality of life and the way of life there. Here it's so much harder. There's not that ease of living day to day. Things have kind of deteriorated in Greece to where now because when I was there, nobody had credit card debt. Nobody had the worries that our country's basically built on. They didn't have that. So people kept their cars for forever. People weren't going out and extend. And when Greece lost the drachma, that's when things took a turn for the worse, and things became extremely stressful for families. Extremely. They started having some of the same issues that we have here, and it just changed the whole dynamic. But when I was there, it was the quality of life was so much easier than it is here. Now, during that time, things have intensified here. So still they're on the downswing of this, but things have intensified here and gotten worse here. But now he's used to it. It took him a long time where I just fell into it there because it was easier.
So
Yeah, and another thing is when I first came here, it was kind of difficult for me in a lot of ways. Not just being on time or not to deal with the backstabbing or anything like that, but it was also it's like I found that that I couldn't treat women like women. I couldn't open a door without somebody say, "Oh, I can't open my own door." It was difficult to do that. It was difficult for me opening the door and not hearing "thank you." With that said, there are a lot of good things about being here, but there are certain things that I couldn't get used to, and it took me a long time.
yeah.
And now I just go with the flow.
When I know that
I do.
you do go with flow.
Yeah.
Is she giving you a look? Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew she was giving
I'm
her
giving
a
the
look.
camera a look. 'Cause
Yeah. Well, I know that for many a Filipino that's born in the Philippines and move here, a lot of what they deal with is people making fun of their accent, right? Do you deal with that? How was it when you first moved, and how is it now?
When I first moved here,
Uh-huh.
I was getting people were making fun not just of my accent.
This
Of
one.
course, my wife and my daughter make the most fun of me, but
With love, right? Love.
it was bothering me. It would bother me quite a bit, but then I realized that I can cuss at them in English and in Greek when they couldn't really cuss at me in another language.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
okay.
Right,
It's okay.
Good.
I'm fine with
Double
that.
up.
I used
Yeah.
to love it when because people would get mean, and you would always say, "And how many languages do you speak?" I used to.
And
love
somebody
that.
said 5, so that
Yeah, then you
that
always
didn't
kind
go,
of like,
that didn't go that well. Yeah.
yeah. Just that one time though. That one
that one time, yeah.
Takes all it takes sometimes.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh,
Yeah, but yeah, they used to make to this day they make fun of me, but I found that in most cases having an accent really works to my benefit. So
How? In what way?
I work in sales,
Okay.
so when you have an accent, people tend to pay more attention to you. So it works to my benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Do you feel like people are more intrigued? Like, oh, like
They
he's
are.
different. Mm-hmm.
they are intrigued with the accent. They are intrigued with the culture. They are intrigued with the fact that I moved here from another country. I was born into a different culture. So at the end of the day, it really works to my benefit. So what if somebody can't see it and they make fun of my accent? It's their loss, my gain.
What so about parenting? So, what are some of the differences from because you have a sister? So you saw how she got raised and how you got raised, and then now you're going to move here and you're going to raise kids. Turned out to be kid. So what are the differences in parenting? Like how were you parented versus how kids are parented here?
And then how you chose to parent Nicole.
Well, the biggest thing that I found here is the fact that I found sometimes the families are not as close as they are in Greece.
Right.
The kids don't, in Greece, kids don't leave the house right at 18. I'm still having a hard time with that. When Nicole was going to college, I had a hard time with that. I enjoy the fact that she's still with us, and now she wants to move out. So I'm having a hard time with that.
Yeah. How long do kids normally stay with their parents? Well, I guess adults by that time,
Well,
right?
in most cases, until we get married,
Okay.
or until we find the person that we want to spend our lives with. I didn't leave my parents' house until I was 25, not because I couldn't, because I could since I was 20 years old, but because I didn't see the point.
Right, and it's embedded in the culture,
and
right?
it's embedded in the culture, and it was fun being with my parents. But when I met Lauren, it was time to have my own life. It was time to get out of my parents' house and start our own life.
Was that difficult for your parents when you were?
It was.
Yeah.
It was, but I wasn't. It's not that I wouldn't see them every day still.
Right.
But that's kind of difficult. That's kind of difficult here. And we're in Greece. We're involved in our lives, kids all the time. And here it's a little bit different. But Lauren and I, we were always involved all the time.
Like, so basically when you see other people parenting their children, it's still kind of a bit of a culture shock.
It is.
To you.
It is. It's more like parenting from a distance when we're hands-on. So that's the biggest thing, the biggest difference.
Yeah, that blows my mind too. And I don't know if it's a culture thing for me, but I know it's definitely cultural for him. To watch children being parented at arm's length is I don't understand that.
Right.
Because these kids just don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And they don't know that they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And you have to be all up in their Kool-Aid at all times without smothering them.
Yeah, and I think like for me, having been the product of a family that had been immigrants, came over to America, and now I'm basically challenged by how they were raised, right? And being influenced by this massive culture, because we're not only dealing with just how Filipinos think and how they're parenting, but you're dealing with Caucasians and blacks and Hispanics and Greeks, like every color you could imagine, and you're like, okay, well, what's right, and as a kid you don't know what's right, and and now being a parent myself, do you feel like because I feel like I want to get the best of what my culture had to offer, but then also still be able to offer the independence, right, that everybody, like in the other countries, when they look at America, they strive to see people have, do you see that like sometimes, or do you feel like you Do you feel like your culture, your Greek culture, was kind of challenged trying to do that as you were raising Nicole, or did that make sense? I don't know.
That was a long question.
That was a long
but,
question. I'm still trying to process some of the things,
I
right?
don't know
You're
if I understood right.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know if I understood right either.
But
Whatever.
correct me if I'm wrong with the answer. But when I left Greece for a reason.
Okay.
It was time for me to go to another country
Right.
and experience different things and move on from there. So yes, I'm proud of my culture, but again, at the same time, I'm not going to raise Nicole just with Greek values. I'm going to raise Nicole with Greek values and the American values. So no, it wasn't that hard. Lauren. I was lucky enough that Lauren spent time in Greece, so she knew
Right.
exactly where I was coming from when I would say certain things or do certain things. But yeah, we raised Nicole with both cultures. Now another thing that it was difficult for me when I grew up in Greece. I mean, in the States, we do have racism, different cultures, different races, and all that. We didn't have that in Greece when I was growing up. Everybody's the same. You don't have to think about it. You don't talk about it. So here it was difficult when I had to do that. But yeah, it's you learn how to bring two cultures together and raise your child like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point. It helped that I had been there for so long.
Yeah.
So I knew where you were coming from. Another thing that was really helpful, I think, for us, Nicole was very planned, very planned. She was very on purpose. When Tinos
You
and
are
I
on
first, when Tinos and I first met, from the time we met to the time we actually got married and then had Nicole, everything was very. Timing was very important to us. So we knew that we weren't ready to have kids because we were 6 months here, 6 months there, 6 months here, 6 months there.
Right.
So we knew that just wasn't the time. And then when we were like, okay, it was more gut feeling, okay, it's that stupid square. Okay.
Hollywood
it's time
Square.
we get married. And then after that, we're going to wait to have kids until we settle down. And then when we knew when it was time for us to come off those cruise ships and start settling down. So that it was all planned, but the way we planned it was, we didn't say, okay, in 2 years we're going to do this. And in 3 years we didn't do that. It was more of a feeling, right? It was more of a feeling. We don't want to be in this place in our lives anymore. It's time for us to move on and take the next step. It was a feeling that we had, and we had it together at the same time. It's not like he was like, I want to get off this ship. I'm like, no, I want to do 2 more years. It wasn't like that. It all happened at the same time, so we were
That's
really
good.
lucky that way. And in raising Nicole, it was really important to the both of us, especially to Tinos, because we're here, that she knew who she was on that side of the family.
Right.
And because Greece is a long way away, we're not there all the time. She's not seeing her that side of the family all the time. So it was really, really, really important. For this side, it was way easier. But we had to make a conscious effort for his side of the family. Yeah, I told him how when we first took Nicole, and your dad doesn't speak English, and how connected they were,
Oh, yeah.
and how it was
So
just the
cute.
most
It was crazy.
amazing
It's
thing.
so
It was
cute.
crazy.
Aw.
And then she would think that my uncle is my dad.
Yeah, because they
Aw.
look alike.
They
Oh,
look
I
Oh,
alike.
did
forgot
they
about
really?
that.
Same eye color and
then-
everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would
Aw.
go to Greece, and his mom loves to throw parties, and she would have a party every time we would go. So this one time we went, and because Tinos is like, I'm not going from family member to family, we're going to use up our whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
So she would have one party, invite everyone over, and Nicole was like, that same trip. And
Yes.
and Tinos dad's brother was there, and he picked up Nicole, and she was like all into him because she thought that it was Tino's dad, and then she was like,
It's like, wait a
minute.
second. You
Wait a
smell
minute.
different.
Hold on. It was so.
Until he
She
gave her a
freaked out.
present and it was fine.
Yeah.
Aw. Aw.
Now, speaking of giving presents, I did tell the story yesterday.
Like what?
What?
Right.
So, to recap, and because you weren't here, and maybe some of you weren't here, didn't see the previous episode, when we went to Greece that time when we were meeting somebody at Syntagma, we were standing in front of the McDonald's in Syntagma, and there was this older Greek man there, and he just thought Nicole was the cutest thing ever.
Because she was.
Yeah, and she was.
Yes.
She
She
was.
was.
I mean, if
Still
you really
is.
want to know. And he was like, oh, and he was oozing over, oh my goodness, she's so beautiful. And Tinos is standing there, and I can feel it coming off him. He's like,
The
this
heat.
motherfucker.
The
Who's
heat.
Yeah.
this? Who's this? And because he would have never thought that before we moved there,
Correct.
before we moved
moved here.
here. But since we had been here for so long, he was like, he's getting all tense and stuff. I'm like, you need to relax. I don't know what your problem is. And so then the guy leaves, and Nicole was like that too. She's looking at, because you tell your kids, stranger danger. And so the guy leaves, and he comes back with this big old chocolate bar, bigger than Nicole, and he gives Nicole the chocolate bar, and they're besties. Hey, Nicole's like, thank you.
Yeah.
He's getting worse. Now he's bringing her. And when he left, I was like, dude, this is Greece. This is not America. This guy is genuine, and he just wants to, how the older Greek man, and he relaxed, so yesterday we talked about how that pull, after you had lived here for so long, that pull of your culture and our culture.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, older men and older women in Greece, they rule the neighborhood. So they would give a present. They will come and talk to your kid, and it's okay. At least, yeah.
There, yeah.
It was okay there. And but I wasn't used to it anymore. It was so difficult for me to deal with that. It was like not just that, but when Nicole used to suck her
Tell that
fingers,
story.
and we're just walking down the street, and here you protect your children.
Right.
Somebody approaches them, stranger danger. You don't know who they are.
Right.
You just get in the middle.
Right.
Over there, Nicole is walking down the street right in front of me, and she's what, 4?
Yeah, had to
4
been
years
about
old?
4.
And she's sucking her fingers. This old lady, dressed in black, typical Greek older lady, stops right in front of her, tells her something, grabs her fingers, grabs her hand out of her mouth, pulls it out, tells her something. Nicole is stunned. She has no idea what's going on. I don't know what to say because you don't say anything to the elders. And Lauren starts laughing.
I lost it.
And
Lost it.
we're both in shock. It's so different. Somebody does that here, you attack them.
Oh, yeah.
Over there, it's okay.
Yeah.
So it took me a little while to get used to that.
It's like you're standing on a
Change.
thin
Yeah.
line. It's,
Exactly.
It's crazy.
In
You
one
don't
country, it's
know.
okay. In
Yeah.
another country, it's not.
Yeah. Well, I think, do you think a lot of it is just like, when you're in Greece, I mean, like, everybody is of the same culture versus here where there's just like a melting pot of different things and you don't know where people stand.
Exactly.
You know, like, what is your intention? I
So
don't like you. Don't
it's
touch my
yeah,
kid.
it's really hard. And there, with the older man and the older lady, it was fine in both times, but I had a hard time dealing with it. Apparently,
Do you still have a hard time dealing with it when you go back?
not at this point because yes, I do. I always have time dealing with it, but at this point, I remember of those two situations, and it's okay. It's easier to deal with.
Now, one of the things that I dealt with growing up was, my parents didn't really allow us children to learn our language. I mean, I'm the only one that probably speaks
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you?
decent. Well, I'm speaking to my experience.
You have to bring that up.
I don't know this story. Okay, I don't know.
Obviously you do.
Okay. Am I talking? I don't know
Otherwise you
what's
wouldn't
going
do
on right
that.
now. Don't know what's
Okay,
going on.
continue.
Okay. So one of the things that I wish that my parents did with all of us, because I'm really the only one that speaks Tagalog, and it's just really super basic people. Like I can go to the bathroom, I can get food, you know, I can get to one location from the next, you know. But what happened with your decision with like bringing language into the household?
Yes, Tinos, tell us what happened.
Okay, I will tell you exactly what happened. Well, when we had Nicole, we decided that Lauren would speak to her in English, and I will speak to her in Greece, in Greek, and that would be it, because we want her to grow up speaking both languages.
Right.
Well, that didn't go that well because
It was going really well.
it wasn't. So
Yes, it was.
anyway, so I'm speaking to her in Greek and only in Greek. And the problem was the fact that we are in the States. Lauren's not Greek, so she speaks to her in English, and everybody else speaks to her in English. So I'm the only one speaking to her in Greek, and for some reason it wasn't working.
Right.
And so she starts speaking. Nicole starts talking to everybody in English, and we couldn't communicate. To me, it's very important it was
Right.
always very important to be close to Nicole and be able to communicate with her. And all of a sudden, one day, I said something in Greek. I know that she's talking to everybody else. I said something in Greek, and she looked at me with such frustration that I'm like, it's not that important to learn for her to speak to me in Greek as long as
She understood.
as long as we communicate in any language. I didn't care at that point. I didn't care which language it would be, as long as I can communicate with my daughter. Everything else is not important. That's the most important thing. So I'm like, it's not worth it anymore. So we start speaking. At the moment I said something to her in English, that was it. We start talking.
Yeah.
So the connection is, to me, with my daughter is way more important
Right.
than the language.
Right. No, that makes sense, because I know that my kids even asked me, like, Mom, how come you didn't teach us Tagalog? I said, for me, it was a matter of, you know, I know very, very basic, and I didn't want to teach them incorrectly, right? Because it would all be mainly slang and, you know, a lot of English and, you know, kind of mixed throughout, you know. Do you think it would have been easier had Lauren continued to speak Greek in the household with both of you?
Yeah, if because you live in a different country and
Right.
everybody else outside would speak to her in English. So I found that the households, in most cases, the households that they speak one language at home,
Right.
the same language, both parents, it's easier for the kids to learn that language, and then they go out and learn the other language also.
Because it's easier to learn out there anyway, because you're surrounded by it.
School.
But in the
School and
household,
stuff.
if one speaks the language that everybody else speaks, and only one parent speaks that language, the different language, it's more difficult. Would it be impossible? I don't know. But to me, at that point, that moment, it wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah. So,
Can you teach me Greek again?
Can I do what?
Teach me Greek again?
Yeah, I guess I
yeah,
could.
Nicole just asked if she could be taught
so
Greek again.
this is the reason why I'm going to tell you the reason why he's hesitating. Tinos used to be a swimmer. He swam on the swim team and stuff. And when Nicole was little, we were like, oh, she's got to learn how to swim. And the complex we lived in had a swimming pool. And so he wanted to teach her how to swim. And it was like oil and water, the two of them. Him trying to teach her, and then she wouldn't listen to him because it's just daddy. And I mean, it was.
So what did we have to do? We actually had to pay
We had to
somebody
pay somebody
to teach her.
to
Then most
teach her.
likely he wasn't as good of a swimmer as I was
Yeah.
to teach her how
But
to swim.
she was-
But she listened to him.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
she was not having it. She was not having any kind of
Oh,
instruction from him
man.
for swimming. So that's why right now he's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I guess I can teach you.
Yeah.
But if he teaches you how to speak Greek, you have to listen to him.
Okay.
You have to listen.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like, he's the only one that fucking speaks Greek.
I know,
So-
but you have to listen to
Oh,
him.
in that
It was
case,
the same
yeah,
thing.
let me teach you Greek. Yeah.
He has some very choice words for you to
Yeah.
learn today.
Yeah.
Choice words learned today.
So, but you have to listen to him if,
I
if,
will.
if that's what you want.
I will.
Okay.
But you know, we do go parent deaf. You know, we really do at times.
I never
you
did.
know.
Mhm.
Really?
I
Look,
never did.
See the look on his face? Do you see this
Lying.
look on his face? Because I'm not buying it.
Good.
Mhm.
I'm
because
not
that's
buying
not
it.
true.
Yeah.
His mother is a saint. Puts up
She
with
is
him.
actually, yeah.
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 It's
It-
wonderful.
it's in the family.
No.
We're all saints.
No, we won't go that far.
That's not how it is.
We are not going that far.
Again, very sensitive subject. It's a very sensitive subject.
So, when Nicole was in high school, and it got to be around the time about college,
Mhm.
and we hired a scholarship counselor for Nicole, and she's very, very good. Hi, Ria. Say hi to Ria.
Hi, Ria.
Hi, Ria.
She's very, very good. If you want her information, we'll put her link down below. So we hired Ria, and Tinos, I had to drag him there. He was nails digging, and I'm dragging him. It was that because he could not understand this whole ship your kid off to college after senior year of high school. So you want to speak to that?
To what?
About the
The hard time you had with the
When-
whole concept of college and student loan debt and
Well,
that whole thing.
Yeah, just don't.
breathe.
How do I put it?
Breathe.
College, it's not for everybody.
Mhm.
And, I'm coming from a country that nobody has student debt.
Can you explain a little bit how that's all done in Greece?
Yeah, in Greece, you go to school, you go to high school, and when you're in high school, you decide what kind of subject, what
Field.
you would like to, the field that you want to study. So towards the end of high school, they just break you up into different groups, and people start focusing more in medicine or law or engineering, whatever it might be, and there are different. I believe there are 5 different groups, and then as you are on your, believe it, the last year of high school, you start making your choices and the college, the university choices, and once you take all the exams based on your grades, you get your first, second, third choice, and that's how you end up going to school. Is that the best system? Probably not, but it's a
Simplified.
simplified system, and when you go to college, you don't pay for anything. So you come out and you start. If you fall, whatever your job you're gonna do, you don't have to pay a debt for the rest of your life. Here, people come out of college with $100,000 debt,
Yeah.
200, 400. And yeah, if you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, yeah, of course you have to go to college. But there are a lot of people that are going to college for whatever they go for, and they come out with huge debt, and they're frustrated for the rest of their lives. And I don't see the point. Nobody talks about trade schools. Nobody talks about different places that you can go and study and get paid while you study sometimes,
Right.
and come out and make a very good living without having all that debt. So, yeah, in a lot of cases, I couldn't see the point of going to college, accumulate all this debt, and pay for it for the rest of your life. So,
Yeah.
I guess that's what I had hard time with.
Yeah, he went into the whole process kicking and screaming and
Yeah, and if you get a scholarship for everything, great.
Mm-hmm.
At least you come out, you get your degree, you come out, you don't have any student debt. But to come out and have all this debt, to me, it's just not. And in a lot of cases, a lot of kids don't work in that field. So what's the point?
Right.
Just to get a college experience? I don't get it. I don't get what the college experience is. I don't see the point of spending all that money just to party in a lot of cases. Because
Right.
I never did that. I don't see why you need to do that. Anyway.
You mean the college part, not the partying part, right?
you did
Both.
the partying
I
part.
did party, but not while accumulating student debt.
Right.
There was a big
Let's
difference
be
there.
very clear.
You know, when you think about it like that, no,
Yeah.
it's true.
That's true.
You know, he had a really hard time with the whole concept and everything. And I kept saying to him, you know, Nicole, I want Nicole to have the whole college experience of going away, learning to live on it. It's like a natural progression to me. Unless you find, like I did, you know, what am I doing here? Why am I here? In my case, it was, I'm going to this college so that I can get a job as a dancer. Well, I had a freaking job as a dancer, so I was like, okay, well, I guess that's over.
Yeah.
It was just
like
the
once
natural,
it like,
yeah. Once it came to me, well, I'm dancing and I'm getting paid. So why am I going to go back and not dance and not get paid when I want? That's what. So I left school. With Nicole, it would just wasn't for her. It wasn't for her. Had she gone and they put a camera in her hand and they taught her things that she didn't know, then it would have been a different experience. And she had a great scholarship, but we had to pay a lot of money for her to do something that didn't have anything to do with what she wanted to do.
Right.
So I got it. I totally understand. That's why we went to RIA, because I didn't want her to graduate with a whole bunch of debt. There was no way that was going to happen. Because I have clients that, you know, they're halfway through, you know, they're halfway to retirement and they're still paying off their college debt.
I'm still paying off my
and
college
they don't even,
debt.
they're not even, are you? Well, you you just,
you
I
know.
mean, these people are chugging up on retirement and they're still dealing with that note that comes in every month.
Absolutely. I mean, I have friends of mine that are doctors that are like,
oh, forget it.
Yeah, they're like,
they're gonna,
I'm gonna keep working until I die because they had, you know, not only are they incurring, they've incurred all the student debt, but then they also live the lifestyle of a doctor, you know? So it's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. When I left school, I had a loan that I needed to pay back, and I was like, I didn't care if I was eating, I don't know, you know, a half a box of macaroni and cheese a week. I was paying that off. I got that monkey off my back as soon as I possibly could. Everything went to that, and I did. I paid it off really fast. But yeah, Tinos had a really
it was very difficult. But I was glad when Nicole. I mean, you gotta be proud of a kid that crams 4 years of college into 6 weeks. But but
Nicole shaking her head.
If you want to know how to do that, we'll put a link in. No, I'm just kidding.
But although it was difficult to hear that Nicole, after she got a scholarship, she decided not to do it. I was kind of glad that she said, hey, you're wasting your money, I'm wasting my time. And we need to figure out a different way.
Right.
At least she was mature enough to tell us, hey, let's figure out a different way.
Right.
So I was, after the initial shock, I was glad that happened because now she can do what she wants to do and, you know, focus on that, learn that, not everything else that college tells you that you need to learn that most likely you will never use for the rest of your life.
What would you say?
Almost like trigonometry.
Exactly.
And algebra.
I hate. I really love algebra.
How often do you use it?
When I have to teach somebody how to use algebra.
Okay.
And you're glad you know.
Yes, exactly. But apparently there are different ways to do this kind of math nowadays.
Yes.
Common Core, whatever. I'm like, what is going on? No, but what would you say is something that would be predominantly Greek that you've implemented in your parenting style? You think, both of you? Anything?
Greek,
Or like just maybe just the
it's more of a
tradition.
culture. It's more of
Yeah.
a cultural
Right.
thing, you know.
So what do
I
you
think we're both very close to Nicole.
That's the biggest thing.
I think that's the biggest thing, and I think Tinos being Greek and me witnessing the Greek way of life. I think if we didn't have that, I wonder if we would be as close to Nicole as we are.
Yeah.
If we just had one experience, if we just had my experience, or we both grew up here or whatever. But our relationship with Nicole is, I mean, the two of them, they'll banter and you know.
What are you talking about?
I want to insert the picture of when we were doing my unemployment.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what do you want me to do?
That says it all.
Is there a picture?
Yes,
There's
there's
a
a
picture.
picture.
I'll show you.
Okay,
That
awesome.
There
says
is
it
a picture,
all.
yeah.
That's, and if you were on Facebook, you would have seen the picture.
Look,
Anyway,
man,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But that picture says it all. So Nicole will start that in here. Even though they have that going on, that dynamic going on, a lot of the times we have a relationship with Nicole that I think is unique. And that is
Not to me. That's
just part of it.
That's what it's supposed to be.
That's how you know it to be. It's definitely unique, and it's kind of like Con and Polly, their relationship with
Hi, Con
Anna.
and Polly.
Hi guys.
hello.
Okay. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that you've brought over from your culture as far as our parenting is concerned.
Yeah, it's how close you are, because you don't know anything else. That's it. You got to be close to your kids. It's like somebody said to me one time, you have no do-overs when it comes to your kids.
Right.
It is what it is. You make one mistake, you drift apart, that's it. You're done. So you got to be very careful. You got to be close. You gotta spend time. You become a partner for a reason. You don't want to waste it.
Right. Right.
And on that note, that very well said, by the way.
Yes.
That's a perfect place for us to stop. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Was it painful?
It was difficult,
Was
but
it
it's okay.
difficult?
Yeah.
He's probably said the word difficult like at least 10, 12 times.
Yes.
We'll maybe have a counter for the word
I'm the
difficult.
talent. I can't say anything else.
Yes.
Oh, brother.
Talent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Talent.
it wasn't as bad as you thought. We didn't ask anything
No.
embarrassing.
There will
Not
be
yet.
eventually.
Not yet.
Yes.
I'm sure that's coming.
Yeah.
Totally
So,
coming.
but thank you so much for doing
welcome.
that. We really appreciate
five, man.
it. Yay!
Guys, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Like us, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Check us out on Instagram. We are all on 3 platforms, so Google Play,
Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Spotify. What else?
Yes, that's it. And search us under A Parent's Truth. And you guys have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Wave bye, Tinos.
Bye.
So obedient.